Hello, and welcome to the Co-Founders Show. Today is the third episode of that first series, and I'm really excited to welcome Gary and Michael today. So Gary Milner and Michael Gutowski have a consultancy organization together for quite a few years, and they have an international consultancy and interim management with a specific focus on
It's not
internalization
so easy.
and sustainability. So we were just having a laugh before starting, saying that is quite a mouthful for me to say, but here we go. I managed to say it. So welcome to you both. And I would like to ask you first, how long have you been working together now? And what was a driver for you to start this business together?
Well, I go first. So thank you for inviting us, and
Thank you,
also
Michael.
welcome to the podcast. We've been knowing each other for probably close to 10 years. And when we both left the corporate world, we both individually started consultancy businesses. Our background is pretty similar, and what we've done is also pretty similar. It was always internationalization. I hope that's better. Business diversification, business development, sales. Helping companies going international, basically explore what is outside of their home market. And after we both started individually, we realized that what we do is pretty similar, and we thought that doing it together is A, more fun, and B, more efficient. And by the way, you don't feel lonely. If you have somebody that you can discuss with and share opinions, and that also gives you sometimes, let's say, critical feedback, because although you mostly think you are right and this is the way to go, a second opinion is very, very helpful.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. I think there's a lot of talk in business about loneliness. When you start your own business, when you have your own show, your own consultancy, you can feel really lonely trying to figure everything out, even if you make business friends. So I think it's a lot of people who decide to go together to have this sounding board, but also sort of join forces, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something I didn't mention at the start, but we can hear. So we've got a range of accents today. So obviously I'm French, Michael, you're German, Gary, you're English. And we did have a conversation not long ago. We had a live conversation on LinkedIn talking about cultural differences in business. And I was saying that this combination is what I have at home, actually. My husband being German, me being French, we live in the UK. So it's a topic really close to my heart. And maybe, Gary, you could tell us a bit more first about you. What was a driver for you? Was it the same than Michael? And also your take on, because I know you very much embrace those cultural differences, and you told me a couple of times that these are for you really important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. Just like Michael said, thank you very much for inviting us to the show. We're really, very much happy to be part of this. So thank you very much for that. It sounds a little bit like a joke, doesn't it? The Brit, the German, and the French person. But I do like international environment. I mean, I've spent a bit like Michael. I've spent more than 30 years, most of my working career in an international environment. And it's really what I know. And what really motivated me was definitely the kind of loneliness, and kind of talking to myself about ideas or plans and stuff, and not having anyone to bounce ideas off of was a big factor. And it was also kind of a practical thing. Michael will remember, we had a client where which was based in Germany, and we really needed some kind of know-how and some expertise. And Michael, obviously with his background, was very much able to, participate in that. And that was really the beginning of our serious collaboration together. And really, from that process and working together, I think it just became a lot more enjoyable. And the old expression, two heads are better than one. And I think that was really where it all stemmed from.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How long have you been running the show together?
It's 3 years, right?
Yeah.
3 years.
So
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and time goes very quickly together. And there's it's been very enjoyable. I have to say, it's been much better than working on my own. So.
So what's interesting is, Michael, you said you had similar backgrounds and possibly similar skills. So did you spend some time to look at, okay, what skills do we have in common, but also where can we complement each other? Where do we bring something different?
Well, I think we've mainly worked in the same areas, but our skill sets and our background are a little different. So I have an engineering degree and a business degree, and Gary has a degree in marketing, I guess, and that complements each other perfectly well. So we've both been spending a lot of our career time in Asia. I've also been to the US for quite a while, and I do live in the UAE now for nearly 7 years. So it's the combination of everything. We are aligning, let's say, the new world with the old world. If we would, call the traditional Europe the old world, and the UAE as one of the booming hotspots in the world, kind of the new environment. So I think we are experiencing everything, from we're matching cultures, we're matching experiences, and we are matching regions, and that gives a unique mixture where I think our clients really benefit.
There's also
and that's something.
Sorry.
No, go on, Gary.
No, I was going to say to you that I think there's also kind of an overlap, and then there's an area where we have our own areas of speciality. So I think Michael is much more. He's very focused and keeps the thing on track, and he has a certain discipline in the way he works. Whereas I think I'm a bit more creative and a bit more laissez-faire and a bit more. I have sometimes I'm more creative, but I also have the chance to go off track a little bit, and I need someone to pull me back onto track. And I think that's where Michael's skills really are good.
So you find that's quite complementary in a way.
Well,
yes, I'm always my job is always the bad guy. I'm the bad cop. I have to address points that normally are not so enjoyable to be discussed. So and I have no issue with it. I'll just do it.
You just do the job.
I just do the job, and you can feel when Gary starts to be very diplomatic and finds a lot of expressions, but never comes to the point. Then it's okay. Now
he's more to the point.
So we
now the bad German has to step in and bring it to the point.
That comes back again to your stereotype, so country stereotype, but it's really true, isn't it? The reality of it is, the British. We get this, of course, from you French, which is we're more flowery and diplomatic, whereas sometimes you do need someone just to come straight to the point ultimately, and and say how it is, and that's where Michael's. It's true. He is more of a bad cop. I'm good cop.
Yeah, and I think it's really good. I mean, it's all in the awareness and in the understanding. Like I also worked in a very international environment. I worked for Eurostar for many years, and I have to say those cliches do come out. And it was hard for me in my first 2 years in the UK. I think I told you that before, but I just thought I was brilliant, having good ideas, like really good ideas, because all the Brits were telling me that is really interesting. And it took me 2 years to really understand how to read the code and and also not to be too direct, because the French can be very direct, and the French at work can be very hierarchical and direct and almost critical. And I could I could see some British soul being very crushed by too direct comments. But you two, obviously, you evolved in international environments, so you're aware, and you're aware of each other. You understand how the other one work. But did you have times where he actually had a strain on your relationship, or you found it difficult, if you can open about it?
Well, at the beginning, I think there were some times, when Gary was raising the eyebrows and you realized, whoop, that was maybe a little bit too direct. But
I
of
think, yeah.
course, not everything is flowery and sunshine and nice. You have sometimes times where it gets a little bit rough, but then it's you have
I
to
think the key,
overcome them.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's true. I think the key thing is that you have to agree that you can disagree. That's a really important point in my mind.
Yes.
And the other thing is, because we're working remotely, if one person has an ill feeling about something, it's not good to let it kind of fester and stay. It's better to have a call and to talk things through. And I think Michael's very good at doing that. Sometimes I kind of let things. I just leave things alone a little bit, because I don't want to particularly talk about them, or when I come back to them. And he's quite good at actually bringing it to the fore and saying we have to talk about those things. But I do think it's very, very important, that you have to agree to disagree, and to accept that the other person has got a different opinion, and I think that should be celebrated, not kind of like squashed down. That's important to have a number of opinions. We will talk about a client, and he's often, in my opinion, he's getting, he wants an answer quickly, and he wants, he wants to know exactly where we are very quickly. And I'm much more for, it's like fishing. Let's play it a little bit and let's see where it takes us. But he wants an answer, and so we often have that kind of discussion where he wants to know exactly where we are, good or bad. He just wants to know. So there are things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is that remote work. So, Michael, you're based in Abu Dhabi. Is that correct?
I was living in Ras Al Khaimah for nearly 7 years.
Okay. Yeah. And Gary, you're in the UK, not very far from me.
UK. Not far from you. just west of London. So.
Exactly. So you're not in the same country, and the people I've been interviewing so far, they are, living in the same country. Some of them have an office, and their relationship is based a lot around that time they spend together. So how do you collaborate? Like, what's your way of communicating and also aligning on your strategy? How do you? What's your ways of working together?
Well,
I would say
I think, yeah. I mean, we kind of use all the tools, right? So, of course, we're very much involved in the video conferencing and Teams and that kind of stuff. But we'll also talk via telephone call or WhatsApp or Skype or basically whatever is needed. And I think one of the things is we do use those tools really. It can be late at night, or it can be weekend, or whenever we actually need to talk or communicate, we're very flexible. So we use all the tools really.
But do you have any set times? Like, do you have some sort of structure where you're like, okay, once a week we need to talk and review clients' work, or once a quarter we need to meet somewhere in the world and review our plan? Like, do you have anything, or is it very free flow?
No, I would say it's very. At the beginning, we had fixed timings, but now it's more free flow. As we will speak, on a daily basis anyway. We don't have to define. We always speak at 10. It's you have something, you work on the project, and then you just press the button and you call, and with this video conference tools, the other one appears like he's next to you. So
Magically.
I think we,
yeah,
but we
exactly.
typically, I think, because we both quite like morning, so I think we seem to be more active in the mornings, and yeah, I'm a bit creative in the evenings, especially after I've got a nice glass of Chardonnay or something next to me. I can Sancerre or something. I can become more
I can
creative,
relate
but.
to that.
But no, I think it is flexible. We're very, very flexible, and I think that's been one of the great revelations about the last few years in terms of technology and in terms of what's been happening with COVID and whatnot. Is that you can actually communicate and work effectively, with the tools remotely and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then we use all of the collaboration tools that we need as well. Like OneDrive and whatnot. So we're pretty flexible.
Yeah, it works really well. And how do you get creative together? And by this, I mean, I find that in entrepreneurship, we spend a lot of time creating because we have to create, well, in my case, creating content like this podcast, creating offers for your clients, doing the research. Um, and a lot of it, I can imagine that you work through together, or at least you have to align on what you're going to do and who's going to do what. So, again, how do you do that? Do you just do it as it comes, or do you manage to plan some proper time?
Well, I would say we do as it comes. Normally, and one of our basic things is that we create and implement business strategies for clients,
Yeah.
um, and the let's say the tradition is basically we discuss, then maybe Gary creates a first draft on paper, and then we use this piece of paper to play around with. It's then in our OneDrive, everybody, we can both access it, and we feel that it's always easier if from the moment that you discussed it, then you've created something, and if you have something in front of you, for us it's much more easy to then develop from there instead of just discussing without having anything in front of you. And
Mm.
then it involves, it takes a couple of days and a couple of rounds, and at the end we come up with something I think solid. It's and as Gary said, he's more the creative guy, and then I'll bring it into a proper structure and form, and at the end we have something that we can present.
Michael, you're
I
very
think
much like my husband.
yeah, completely undiplomatic. Exactly. No, the thing I think is also when we're together, the old whiteboard gets out, and we both like a bit of drawing and just kind of creative sessions and stuff. And then we kind of draw on that and then bring it down into a proper proposal or a plan or a presentation or a concept or whatever. So I think we start with a kind of a wide funnel, and then we kind of bring it down to what's more practical. I'm still, as we've said a couple of times, I think I typically have some crazy ideas which we have to kind of squash quite early on, and then we come to more pragmatic ideas.
After we've deleted all of them, then we can do the proper stuff.
Then we just go with what Michael thought in the first place. No, that was a joke. No, that was a joke. And I do think that this element of humor and stuff is really important as well, because it can be quite dry. It can be quite a quite a tough thing. So I think that's quite important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the work you do, so you help organization to internationalize, so basically to go and grow into new markets. Do you work together on for all your clients, or do you share, for example, depending on the nature of the clients or what they need? You said one of you is more marketing, has a marketing background, and how do you work on clients?
I would say mostly together. There might be exemptions, but they are pretty rare. So it's mostly we do projects together, because only then you can have the all the benefits by if you discuss. Otherwise you're back to square one, where you have to do something completely by yourself.
Yeah.
But it might well be that he's on a different project, or there's on vacation or ill or whatever, just not available, then obviously you have to do it by yourself. But most of the times, I would say we're serving clients together.
And I'm sure the clients enjoy having that duo with them in a way, bringing again. I can. I see that as a strength to have. You're talking about helping people to go in different countries, and you both have the experience of living in different countries, and you both from different cultures, so you have a lot of credibility.
Yeah, it's always, they normally they are very successful in their home market, but they've reached a point where there has to be the next step of evolution, and that's normally when they try to expand to different cultures, countries, regions, and then the question is always the same: how do we do that? What do we need to learn? What do we need to know? What's the points that we need to pay special attentions to? And then going international is not just, hey, tomorrow we go international. It's mainly a transformation thing. So the complete company has to be ready and aware, and it's a complete business transformation, because if you invite other cultures and other countries, then you invite also their experiences, their way of living, their opinions, and you need to be able to deal with that. And maybe there are cultures where they don't say no. They will say, we'll consider. For example, and if you don't know those secret words, basically, then you struggle, and worst case you fail. So it's not just an extension of your business. It's kind of a complete business transition.
Yeah, for sure. And you need to, even if you sell, I don't know if you mainly work with service-based or product-based company, but whatever that is, you still need to understand the market. And even if the demographic is the same, the culture will be very different, and people may buy very differently. So I can imagine that you help them to do the research early on. And
absolutely.
Well, I think it's very important that you respect the culture and the people and their opinions. Sometimes you intend, if you're the business owner and you go somewhere, what you say is true, and that's the way how to do it. And maybe there's then a little disadvantage if your client is not understanding what you try to tell them, and maybe also worst case they feel embarrassed, on the way they are approached, or so it's. But at the end, mostly it's fun, and it's always a very, very interesting journey. And I think at least I've gained a lot of beautiful experiences out of that.
What has been in the 3 years that you've been working together, what has been the biggest challenge that you had to overcome, generally, business-wise?
You're working with a Brit.
I knew it.
For me, it sort of stems from, given the line of work that we're doing, the acquisition of new clients and finding relevant people that are suitable for our services, and actually people who we want to work with as well. That is quite a challenge. And I think one of the things, and I know it will come up later on, that I personally wish I'd spent more time on, especially in the corporate world, was my network. I didn't truly understand the value of and the power of like professional networking until probably towards the end of my career in the corporate world. And if I'd realized truly how powerful that was, I think I would have spent more time investing in it. So I think that's one area where I kind of feel that it was quite a big challenge for me.
And do you mean because it was a lot to build from scratch?
Yes, I mean in the corporate world, it was. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's like a bubble. Sometimes you work in, especially if it's a large corporate environment. It's a whole different world within itself. And when you come out of that, you have to kind of start afresh and
Yeah.
start to build your professional network. And I think that takes
Yeah.
time. It takes time.
Yeah.
I completely relate to that actually, Gary, because it's true. Like when I was at Eurostar, I would not even think of building my profile externally, or, I was on LinkedIn, but not using it at all. I was absolutely not networking. I think I didn't realize I could have more of a plan of what to do. And I felt when I started, that's what I asked. I started from scratch. I had to build everything from the ground up. And I've seen people where building their network and their profile while they were still employed. And then once they had the audience and when they had already tested a few ideas, they went freelance or they went independent, and they had success much, much quicker. I think when we incorporate, we are in a big ship. It's changing, but I think a lot of people still feel don't really see the value.
No. And
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
especially when you're looking to. Sorry, Michael. Go on.
No, it's just the small things that you maybe not consider. Before you might have had a team, an assistant, a secretary, and for every speciality there was somebody that you could ask. Now you're by yourself. Now you need to deal with your IT issues, your everything. And that is different than before, but also interesting and challenging, because every day is a new experience.
For sure. How do you disagree? So you did say earlier that you agree to disagree, but what happens when you strongly disagree on something?
Well, at the end, I'm right.
The sad part of that is that he actually does think he is right as well. No, I think like all relationships, right? I mean, I need to speak about my own relationship, but it's not a bad thing sometimes to disagree and to clear the air and so on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same in a business relationship as well. The reality of it is that we are allowed to, and we do disagree. And typically the format is, we both think about things, I guess. We're going to have to delete this, aren't we? We've got to restart that.
It's okay. It's okay. We can edit this out.
Hold on 1 second. My God. Sorry about
Is that your wife?
No, it's my mate, actually.
The chief commander was listening, so.
Chief commander. I'm going to have to close this door. She's going to come in. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
It's okay, Gary. It's okay. Take your time. I know what you mean now, Michael. There's something I want to say. I'll say it when Gary's back. Well, first we'll ask you. So Gary, you were saying it's like every relationship.
Yeah, it's like a relationship. So I think that we kind of clear the air, and Michael will have his say, I'll have my say, and I think we're both mature about it. We're quite mature, right? We're not kids, and we've been around enough, right? So we're both quite pragmatic about these things, and if I really feel strongly about something, I will say, look, this is definitely not right. And vice versa, and sometimes I let it go because I think, well, I can see the bigger picture. What's the expression? Lose the battle but win the war, or whatever the thing is. So or lose the war but win the battle, whatever it is. So I'm quite, most things I can roll with. There's a few things which I say, look, no, that's we're going in the wrong direction here. I want to change. But I think we've been around long enough, and we both have enough experience to be able to handle that. So it's not like dealing with with the greatest respect, someone who's sort of just started work, who's very hot-headed, or it's not like that at all. I would say most of the time we can roll with things. And we don't really disagree on many things, I don't think.
We're both married men, so at the end, the chief commander rules.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, and sometimes, we've all got failings. So sometimes, I just don't, I don't perform well, or likewise, either he isn't, and the other person has to step in.
Mhm.
I think there's a theme with different pairs of co-founders I've been interviewing so far, and it's all co-founders who've been working together for a few years, so who are making it work. And I think there is a theme around what I call the ego, where ego around I've got strong ideas, I've got strong opinion, it needs to go my way. I really want to make my point across, and we all have that somehow, but in a way, when we get more mature, we also, as you say, Gary, see the bigger picture, and we don't feel that need to exist by being right all the time, and we see, seeing the bigger picture. And it's something I hear a lot from co-founders who split up, because there's always a feeling we were just going different direction, we couldn't agree, and they couldn't at some point agree to disagree anymore. It was too strong. But the other thing as well I want to pick up on, which I think is really important, is, Michael, you said, I'd rather call Gary and clear the air very quickly if there's been something, anything, even if it's not even something to worry about, but it just has to be talked about. And I think it's so important, because above all, with a distance, like, you don't have those time where you can even just socialize, spend time together, and it's very easy to then keep that thing in our head for a few days, few weeks, and then it's sort of, when there's more than one, it starts to build as resentment, or so I think it sounds small, but it's really important.
Yeah, if you don't clear it, it will grow.
It will
And
grow.
if you, at the end, if you realize we're not doing this to be right or wrong, we are doing, normally our discussions are around serving a client and having the benefit of the client in the back of our heads. And then it's not that important, Important is that we find the solution and implement the right strategy, and or create and implement the right strategy, and make sure that our client is happy, and everything else is maybe priority to them.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you've not touched on here, which I think is really, really important, and it's probably one of the building blocks of all of this, is you've got to have trust. Because without trust, very, very difficult to move forward. Trust it's fundamental in any organization, and we both know organizations where trust is a bit limited, right? And if you have trouble with trust, then it's very difficult to see how you can go forward.
Well, even harder, if you stop trusting each other, you can immediately stop, because then there's no more base to do anything together.
No, for sure. And I think that's what happens, when a lot of co-founders start thinking, we know each other, we've got the same vision, and actually, when you scratch a little bit, you realize, or at least in the discussion I had, the vision were not exactly the same. And also the behaviors were not always understood. And as you said, then that's when misunderstandings start. And that's when the trust factor, which is so important for any collaboration, start to erode.
I think one of the things which sort of leads on from that, though, is to spend time, and we spent quite a lot of time, invested time on the vision and mission and what we wanted to stand, what we stood for, and also aspirations and this kind of stuff. These were really, really important elements for us at the very beginning.
How long did you? So you say you spend quite a bit of time. So that's typically the type of thing I help my clients, whether they're solopreneur or co-founders. How long did you spend on that? Like, what did it look like?
I'm going to say a few weeks on it, Michael.
Yeah, Yeah, I think we handled it like we would handle a project. We knew that we should define something and agree to something, and then we had the first point, and then we started discussing. You know, put it aside, slept the night, discussed again,
Yeah.
added something, then changed something, and that at the end, after maybe a couple of weeks, we thought, oh well, this is now what we feel is needed and what we can stand for.
Mm.
I think also
And
it's
how
not something
often?
you just. It's not something you just. In my mind, at least, it's not something once you complete it, it's not like you put it in a book or in a binder and then you put it in the cupboard and forget about it. This is kind of an ongoing, living, breathing thing, right? Because there's a
Yeah.
continuous adjustment or continuous circumstances
Yeah.
change or whatever, right? So sometimes nothing changes and sometimes lots of things
Well,
change.
exactly. Your own interest changes, the demand from the market changes. So let's say our new focus is sustainability because it's something that we are both into. We feel it's necessary, and we think that everybody should do um, his part to make this happen. And this is now also a huge business topic. It will come from the public companies. It goes down to the limited. Everybody needs to define sustainability strategies, create reports. You will only be able to get uh, public offers if you are committed to sustainability, if you have these measures in, if you create those reports, and you just need to be aware. And so sometimes, your personal interest matches with the public interest and public demand. And I would say 3 years ago, sustainability was something that, yes, we knew, and we thought, yeah, having a solar panel on the roof is
Mm.
probably the maximum that you could do, but it's it has evolved and it's so much more now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I like what you said about the fact that your vision and mission are not stuck on a wall, and that it's something which is evolving all the time, because it's true. And we've all been working for those companies who have a set of corporate values and put them in the elevator, and then, nothing changes. So how often do you revisit those key pillars of your business?
Well, I think
Or
we've,
how often should you?
yeah, it's not. I don't think that's something you do like every quarter and you say, right now we're going to invest 15 minutes to discuss it. It's not like that. I think intuitively when circumstances change and when you need to adjust yourself, and it will come at a time when you least expect it, and it will be through discussions with clients, or it will be through talking amongst ourselves, or be trends within the market that we see, and then or business practices and so on, and I think that's really when it comes. And then Michael and I will talk to each other and we'll say, look, we think we need to adjust something or change something, or we need to add something, or we need to take something away, or we need to revisit something. And so but it's not, it's not a specific time or a specific
Yeah.
interval, I would say. Well, not unless you, Michael, have you got a note in your calendar to raise this every quarter or something? Michael?
No, it pops up permanently as a permanent task without ending date.
Yeah.
But I think, I know we joke a little bit about it, but I think it's one fundamental which is important to do, that many people don't do. I think a lot of people do it when they seek for investment, and then they have to do a pitch and they have to go through all those,
I think
process.
the only constant is the change, and if you realize that, then everything is basically on the line for change sooner or later. And I think you change it if it's necessary to be changed. You don't change because it's now 3 months gone and we have to talk about strategy and
Yeah.
should we? No, it's just if something occurs, then you just act.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But you know, I mean, when you see companies and you're from the outside and you're talking to clients or prospective clients, and you know almost instantly the organizations which are good at this, which are able to adapt, which are sort of thinking about the future and thinking about the market and environment and their own, vision and mission and stuff, and other organizations who don't do it at all, and it's just so obvious in my mind, the organizations which don't do it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you're going to store up trouble. At the end, you're storing issues up if you do not, revisit this and be open to changes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've got a more personal question to you both. So if you were, and remember, this can be edited out.
Oh, okay. Use the difficult questions till last.
Here's a difficult question. No, if you could tell me what you really admire in your business partner and what is driving you mad, what would you say? Gary's laughing.
Oh, goodness. What a question. Michael, you want to go, or shall I? How long have you got? That's the question. I've got a very, very, very long
2
list.
minutes. Pick
No,
one.
Well,
No.
that answers mine, right?
Let me say first of all, I'm been years, right, for like 20 years working in a kind of a German business environment, so I know very well. I'm more comfortable in the German business environment than I am in the British one, to be honest, which is a bit odd thing to say. I feel very, very comfortable working in this environment, and this culture and this sort of Anglo-German culture that we have. I really admire Michael's ability to get to the point. I struggle with my background to do that sometimes, and I really like that a lot. And the flip side to that, I guess, is that sometimes we should be a bit more patient, and I think it's a bit like fishing. And sometimes you have to be pragmatic, and you have to be sensitive to time frames from the other side, from the client or prospective client or whatever. And even though we get frustrated, and we do get frustrated sometimes, we both get frustrated. We sometimes do need to be mindful, of different cultures and stuff like that. And sometimes Michael can be pretty quick to get straight into the action, which, I've probably said enough.
Beautiful. So, Michael, you need to learn patience, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I would say exactly the same thing, just the opposite. I think, come on, you can't be patient. Just ask the question. Yes, no. What's so difficult? But at the end, I think that's what forms a good team.
Yes. But I think, it's great to, again, it's back to self-awareness and understanding the other and being respectful. Because what I've seen in other scenarios is people who would have different reaction. For example, many years ago, I was coaching a co-founder, just one, and she was really struggling to find her space in the partnership. And she was a thinker. She needed to plan, and her partner was a doer and had to act to then learn. And they could have done amazing together. But because it was so different and because they didn't have the awareness and they didn't talk about it enough, they ended in conflict and they ended in not understanding each other. And at the end, they separated. They didn't do the business together. And I think it's finding that balance, isn't it, of having this awareness, but respecting the other one and understanding that the other one will be there. And when you find a place in the middle, that's when the beauty happens. Because probably, Michael, you help to still make progress, and Gary, you help to make sure that maybe it's more on paying attention to the external timeline and giving a bit more time and bit more free flow. So I think the two together is a real strength, but the challenge is to get to that place. So we're coming to the end. So the final two questions I wanted to ask you is, first, if you were going back to the very early days of starting together, what would you do differently in your partnership or in how you set it up?
Well, I
Not
think
too
if I'm allowed to
much.
say, no, go on. I think, I said at the beginning that, or earlier on, that I think or at least I wish I'd invested more time, effort, and energy in networking, professional networking.
Yeah.
I think that would have paid dividends later on. And I didn't sort of fully understand the power of it and the importance of it, I guess, until probably I left the corporate world. But I would have done a lot different. I don't know about Michael. Maybe you would have changed lots of things, but
No.
not really for me.
No.
And so if I ask you what advice you would give to other co-founders, what would you
Just
say?
try. Just try.
Just try.
I think be honest. That's again, honest and trust is a critical thing. Be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. Build a vision, a mission, a concept, a plan, a strategy. That build it for the mid and long term, and come back to that and revisit it. On a kind of almost a continuous basis. People do change. Over the years, people do evolve, and your needs and your wishes and things will change, and then you have to kind of be aware of that and adapt to that. But kind of listening to the other person is really important.
Oh, I love that, Gary.
Was that too
as a coach.
philosophical?
Learning to listen.
If you could just say yes all the time, it'd be a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward. Yes, Gary, I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's very difficult.
Well.
But no, I think it also comes with a bit of maturity, in the end, we're not, luckily our listeners cannot, or your listeners cannot see us at this point, but, we're not 22 years old, right? So we've got a little bit of gray. Well, Michael's got no hair, right? And I've got some hair, a few grey pieces. It's a bit of maturity helps as well.
For sure. Thank you both very, very much for all your words of wisdom and insights and sense of humor. If anyone is looking into bringing their business global, where can they find you, or creating a sustainable strategy? Where can they find you?
I think the best way to reach us is just go to our website, www.gutowski&milner.com, and contact us via the contact form that is on the contact page. I think that's the easiest and most straightforward thing to do.
Perfect. And I'll put the website in the show notes once I learn how to do that. But that should be pretty straightforward. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
There's one more thing as well. We have also, for your German language listeners, we've also been co-author to a book as well on the subject of internationalization. I think, Michael, we should talk about that.
Okay.
And maybe that also can be a link. We can put that as a link on in the notes as well. That would be useful.
What's the book about?
It's business transformation.
Okay.
And we've, together with a group of co-authors, we covered the part of internationalization in this book. So it's
internationalization.
I think it's really good. It's kind of one of the standards now for the industry. That's at least what we've been told. And I think it's worth reading it.
And it's in German.
It's a German.
Practice your German. You can practice your
absolutely, jawohl. Yes. Well, no, I'll definitely put it in the show notes as well. So thank you very much, Gary, Michael, and thank you to all the listeners, and see you next time. Hear you next time at the next episode.
Always.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Bye.
Much appreciated.
Bye. Bye-bye.